Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios, and I'm joined by David A. Fields. Hello, David.
Good morning, Isabel. And it's a fine Monday morning here on the East Coast to say hello to you.
Likewise. All right, and it's good afternoon as of right now, right? If you have questions for us today that you want us to address, please start typing them in the comments. Sometimes it takes a couple of minutes before we actually see them, so get a head start. And if you're new to these sessions, we answer your questions with what is hopefully our most tactical and practical advice for your consulting firm. So we're here every week, God willing. Without further ado, Dira, can you please pull up the first question and we'll get playing? This question is for you, David.
Okay.
What are some tips in dealing with senior level decision makers, such as CEOs or chairmen, who've spent time with me on calls and verbally expressed an interest to work with me, but delay making the commitment? And this question is from Sameh.
Okay. So they've spent time on the phone. And you want me to do this? Or you want to do this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
Jump right in. You spend time on the phone.
Spent time on the phone, made a verbal commitment, but haven't actually not going forward. That I will tell you, that actually sounds to me like a consultant who might be thinking there's more than there is. Often people will call and they'll express some interest or some level of interest. You'll tell them what you're doing and they'll be polite and go, "Oh, that sounds good." They haven't moved actually to a context discussion, then I'm going to throw out there that it's not real interest. So, or it might be borrowed interest. So sometimes if you're really excited about what you do, or you see an opportunity for the prospect, they're like, "Oh yeah, oh wow, you know what? That actually sounds good." But then once you walk out of the room, the energy level sort of declines because their interest was borrowed from you. Their passion came from you. And we need that passion to be inside them. So that's kind of where I go initially with that. Marie-Isabel, do you interpret it differently or interpret it the same?
My interpretation was the same. And I think a follow-on question that probably folks have in mind is, can you actually then create that transfer of interest from you to your prospects? And to what extent, under which scenarios?
Yeah. So I think that's yes, you can. And it's in general not something we advise as an ongoing marketing tactic because it's hard to do. Anytime you can point to consequences and get a client in touch with what's the impact if you don't do something, or what's the impact if you continue on your current course, if that impact creates, or that understanding of the impact creates some urgency, well, there you go. And the other way is to point out benchmarks. Those are the two most common ways to create some urgency, but usually to try to stimulate urgency where there isn't any is not the best use of energy, I think. Anything you want to toss on top of that, Marie-Isabel?
I think that's absolutely right. And part of folks, a lot of high engagement, you can also ask questions. Look, last time we spoke, it sounded like you were really excited about this. Has anything changed, or what's on your mind, right?
Yeah, that was good.
Without making it an antagonistic process, but you can explore it.
Perfect. I agree. Okay, so if you're listening in, you're like, I don't know, that doesn't make sense, or it sparks a question, throw your question in the comments. We do our best to get to them. Sometimes we have to wait a week, but throw your comment in there. Right now there aren't any, so you'd be first up. All right, Deidre, what do we have? What's next? I'm mid engagement. I'm mid engagement, and the key consultant I have leading the engagement decided to leave. She didn't give any notice. Any tips for transitioning a client to a new resource? And what do I tell them? What do I tell the client? All right, Marie-Isabel, this is a good one.
Hi, Judy, I'm sorry you're going through this. It's tough, right? You have your process set up and everything in place, and all of a sudden you're down a critical team member. Unsurprising to most of you who know us, my answer is going to be right side up, right? Ultimately, what the client wants to know is, how will this impact me? What's the effect on the client? You're down a team member, not atypical, right? In the time that we live in, that people rotate, but your client will want to know, how does my project change? How are you going to take really good care of me in this context? So in this case, be proactive. Know that that's the question that's coming. What changes in your project, if any? If you need anything particular from your client, ask them. So show that you're prepared and that your focus is to deliver at a very high quality and to delight. Also think through, how are you going to answer questions as to the why? So my vote is for being transparent and simultaneously giving only as much information as you actually need to. Not oversharing on personal answers or personal reasons, or over dramatizing the moment for the project. David, agree, disagree?
Yeah, well, I agree. I actually want to. So, in case anybody's wondering whether we rehearse this stuff or know in advance, I'm about to prove that we don't. So I'm going to put you on the spot, Maria Isabel. We'll just like demo this. I'll be the client,
right?
And you be the concerned consultant who's, the consulting firm leader or whatever, whose consultant now is suddenly off the project. So you call me and tell me, and I'll give you a typical client's response.
So I'm the consultant who's leaving the project,
you're the
or
leading,
the firm leader
the firm leader,
consultant that has left the project.
You're the firm leader. The consultant left the project.
All right, I'm game. So David, I'm calling you today because we had Maria that was leading a portion of your team project, and she's no longer going to be with us come Friday.
Oh, that's a drag. I really liked Maria. Is there going to be any? So who are you going to replace her with?
So we have a couple of team members coming in to cover different pieces. One of the things we're spending time with Maria on this week is looking at the project plan, what was in her hands, and we're making sure her knowledge gets transferred to the team so that you're well taken care of. We will be able to speak better on Friday as to any adjustments that we need to make and how we're going to divide responsibilities.
Okay, but you'll have somebody who understands my business taking it over.
We're going to make sure that knowledge that Maria has about your business will be in the team, and the team that it's taking care of you. Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's typically how a client reacts. All clients care about is, are you taking care of me? And if you as a firm leader say, yeah, you're being taken care of, I think you're all right. So, all right. So there you go. There was our unrehearsed demo. Jennifer, hi. Don, hi. Samit, if you have follow-up questions, or if you're like, no, David, you were completely on the wrong track, let us know. What's Anurag say? I'm an independent consultant so far, but I want to build a boutique consulting business around my consulting practice. How important is marketing? What should a typical marketing plan look like when I'm starting up? How do I decide how much budget I should allocate? Well, those are big questions. Yes. Those are really big questions. I will answer the first one. Yes. Marketing is important. The other ones might be a little too big for the 15 minutes. Here's what I would do. I would come to the Solo Practice Accelerator. And there's my not subtle pitch. But reach out to us for that. I think that's going to be hard to answer, honestly, in a 15-minute Q&A. Isabel, do you agree, or am I being unfair on that one?
No, I completely agree. Perhaps point you in a couple of directions. So if you go onto David's articles on our site, look for keywords marketing musts. And you will see we typically refer to 5 marketing musts, and there's a 6th as well. That we add in, but that gives you a guideline as to what we're thinking about when we think about marketing, and why David's answer was unequivocally yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely yes. But since we have lots and lots on the marketing. All right, let's so that's a really good question. Anurag, also you can reach out direct, just because that was a little bit more complex question, but keep them coming. Keep questions coming on the in the comments. They're awesome. Deidre, do we have any more in the can? I'm sure we do.
Yeah, this question, I'm going to put you on the spot, David.
Okay, go.
Feedback today. So Elizabeth wrote that she's expecting a call from a prospect. The specific piece of work she's looking for, it's not what her firm does. So I plan to refer the prospect to another firm. Still, I want to see if there's a role for us in the larger project. What questions should Elizabeth ask?
Okay. Wow. That's a good one. All right. So someone calls, they're asking for work. It's not what you do, but you want to do some of it. Is that what it said? She wants to do a little bit of it, Marie-Isabel?
Or right? There may be a piece of the bigger project that falls within her area of expertise. That's what I understood from the question.
Okay. So here's to me what the broader question is. The broader question, and this comes up a lot for us, is do you refer out work or do you subcontract it? So do you put it under your umbrella or do you refer it out? And that question comes up a lot for us. And our advice typically is you should think about what type of work fits naturally under the umbrella of your firm's brand. So if almost anything having to do with consulting firm growth would fit under our brand. But if someone says, well, can you help with architecture firm, we would say no, because that doesn't really fit under our brand. So what's their brand? What would fit? If it fits, then I would subcontract it. And if it doesn't fit under your brand, then refer it out. It's slightly odd that you would do just a piece of it, but again, it's possible. So if you don't have the necessary expertise and you're going to refer it out, then I think the question is not to your client. I think the question's to the prime, to the company that you're potentially subcontracting to. And it's asking them, look, here's a piece I could work on, which I would love to keep. Can I do part of that? And they may agree or they may not agree. They may say, really love and appreciate the referral. To have you involved in this piece of it would kind of break up our process and how we do things, right? I mean, that would be fair for them to say operationally, they're not built to use a subcontractor, which is what you would turn into. Or they might be willing to, but it's a question of them, not the client. I think you could go to your client and say, hey, look, I may be working on a piece of this through this company that I'm recommending. That's my initial thoughts. Any feedback, Marie-Isabel?
I think I'm 100% with you. The key here is you're partnering with somebody else. And the extent to which partnering also implies collaboration will depend on how far it is within your playing ground or outside of it, right? So it also reminds me when David, you and I started working together a number of years back. We started working together in the context of an engagement where we were kind of working on parallel pieces, right? That were more aligned with our own expertise as individual firms. So this is a scenario we see a lot in terms of partnering, right? And the extent to which is a simple referral or in which you bring somebody in or you go into somebody else's team. It will depend on the needs for the project.
Yeah, I think it depends on that. It depends sort of also just sort of what your firm's about, what their firm is about. You always want to serve the client best, but also be true to who you are as a business. Don Garbutt, you suggested joint venturing, which I'm going to go out on a limb, and I could be wrong. I assume you're talking about the sort of partnering we're talking about, as opposed to a legal joint venture, which we would probably discourage, especially for one project, to go into a legal partnership might be sort of overbuilding it.
And Colleen has a great point about trust and how you manage that conversation. And that's certainly a huge consideration.
Absolutely. That's absolutely the case. They will trust you. And I know we need to wrap up. They will trust you if you're honest and say, look, this is outside my area of expertise. Let me suggest someone, right? They'll trust you more because you're willing to admit what you don't know. And I know we need to wrap up. So these were all really good questions. Keep these questions coming. We absolutely love getting these questions. Some of them we answer, in between shows. If you have not put Monday Live, davidafields.com/Monday Live in your calendar for every Monday, please do that, because we don't send out a weekly reminder. This will make sure you're here every Monday and you get the questions that come up. So that's an easy way to do it. Also submit questions. You can do that to info@davidafields.com, or you can just send them to me or to Maria Isabel on LinkedIn. Speaking of which, if you're not connected to us on LinkedIn, please connect. We want to be connected with you. And what's my final ask? My final ask is subscribe. There you go. Thank you, Deidre. If you're not familiar with our articles, which Maria Isabel just talked about, then subscribe. You'll get to see the articles, and there's many hundreds of them to search through and enjoy. So thank you all for being here, for joining me, for joining Maria Isabel. Have a fabulous week. Remember, consulting's not about you. It's about them, your clients and your prospects. So give them value and give them kindness. And Maria Isabel, you'll see everybody next week.
I will.
All right. Take care, all.
Bye. Thanks.